Thank you to Simply Safe for sponsoring today's video.
Simply Safe is simple, serious home security that provides all the protection we need without the hassle, headaches, or expense of the old school brands. Simply Safe's comprehensive lineup includes sensors to cover every window, room, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, plus great extras like smart locks, video doorbells, water sensors, and more. SimplySafe.com guides you through the process of customizing your system so you can get seamless protection that meets the needs of your home and family. Your system ships directly to your door and can be set up in around 30 minutes. There's no need to schedule an appointment or wait around for a technician. Once it's set up, we have comfort knowing our home is protected 24/7 and it costs less than $1 a day. Even better, there are no long-term contracts. With the SimplySafe app, you're connected to your home anytime, and you can even answer your video doorbell from anywhere. We have extra peace of mind that SimplySafe has been recommended by experts and millions of customers alike. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/redpoppyranch to learn more.
I got nothing to worry about when you're by my side. I got nothing to worry about when you're by my side. I looked out and I saw the rain. I wanted it to go away. I felt the weight of it all come down. I braced from the deafening sound. But you were there, holding my hand. You were there, holding my hand. I got nothing to worry about when you're by my side. I got nothing to worry about when you're by my side. I bled from the wound for at least a year. I couldn't clean myself up. I reached out for the bottom rung. You hoisted me up. You were there, holding my hand.
Earlier this morning, we headed into town for Callie's basketball game. As soon as we got into town, you could tell the fog was just rolling in. It got really dark. I could see like 50 feet in front of me. And then as we were heading home, I could see it getting clear. It was really crazy. It feels like you're on top of the clouds a little bit, but the sun is shining. I could hear the batteries running in there. I got a load of wash going. So when the sun's out, it's a great day.
In an effort to get off the roof and stay off the roof, I'm trying to get the roof screwed off so I do not have to get up on another roof for a while, at least while there's snow on it. The tin roof has been sitting for a few days, and after slipping and sliding around with my muck boots on, I ran inside and grabbed my trusty Australian volleyball shoes, and I went to work. The shoes again did their job and kept me in place. I'm doing a couple different things right here. I removed all of the screws from the lower 12 inches of the original roof, and after I pushed the new 10-foot pieces of tin underneath the old roof, I now get to reinstall the screws that I took out, as well as add a few more screws to stitch the two tin roofs together perfectly. The two roofs were coming together great, and I was making great time when this happened. Whenever I cut a piece of tin, I try to hit the edge to make sure it's not any more sharp than it has to be, especially on this lower roof, because this is actually something that somebody would walk by and, like myself, and put my hand on. So I got to be really careful with those edges, because the tin is thin enough that you hit it with a angle grinder and it turns into a little serrated saw. And I'm telling you, I'm getting tired of cutting myself, but once I finish screwing everything off, I should be good to go. But what I usually do on this lower edge is make sure there's nothing sharp like that anybody could literally walk by and just touch and get cut. But it's not fun sometimes. I normally wear a pair of rubber gloves that more than likely would have prevented anything from happening, but I can't feel the screws very well when I wear those gloves, so I took them off, and I paid the price. Because the outside temperatures are so warm, the snow above where I'm working is slowly turning into water and running right over the top of everywhere I'm trying not to slip. So even my Australian volleyball shoes are becoming a problem. I went down in the shop, grabbed some 200 grit sandpaper and some electrical tape, taped that sandpaper to the bottom of my shoes, and problem solved. Except for the fact that I have to be very careful about how I twist my feet on the roof, because it is scratching the tin. I've split the new 10-foot roof into about 4 sections, and I've placed the screws accordingly. I'm not putting anywhere near as many screws as the manufacturer actually recommends, but I'm certain it'll be fine. And again, I couldn't be more happy about how it tied together with the old roof. When the snow melts, I will install the same rain gutters that I put on the house across the back and the front of the shop. It should tie the shop and the house together perfectly. It is an absolute miracle that that was the first time I have fallen off of any roof around here. I still got my cat-like reflexes, so we're good. They say that hard physical work does wonders for your soul. And I would say I strongly agree with that statement. But I'm very much so looking forward to doing some of these jobs the easy way versus the hard way. But the bottom line is you just never know what kind of weather we're going to get in this day and age. Record snowfall, not enough snow, record rain, drought, flooding, and maybe even a tornado in there somewhere. It seems we've got it all. As a kid growing up in Mesa, Arizona, I can remember the extreme monsoon storms that we would have, where we would regularly find 2 to 3 inches of hail on the ground after the storm rolled out. Tornadoes were almost always in the mix with those monsoon storms. I can also remember snow on the ground as a kid as well. There in Mesa, but that only happened once. I would have to wait a while before I would get familiar with snow. This is the wire that Reed helped me pull last week that I still have not put in Conduit because I need to dig this snow away from the shop first. We have a sub panel in the utility room in the house, and this wire here is tied into that sub panel. It's nearly 100 total feet, and for that reason we did 2-gauge wire. And while I wish I had done copper instead of aluminum, I managed to buy that roll of wire at a discount because it had been pre-cut.
Our friends Lewis and Julie had a bunch of apples in a crate that accidentally got frozen, and so I'm gonna go feed them to the goats, and they are gonna be in heaven. Good? On my coat.
It seems that every video I have some sort of a repair to make on some vehicle around here. But on the first gen Cummins, the steering has gotten quite sloppy. I had it aligned and discovered that the factory lower steering shaft had so much slop in it that it was not worth fixing. So I ordered an aftermarket Borgeson steering shaft that should have my truck driving down the road better than it ever has. Pretty straightforward job, and from start to finish was less than 45 minutes. And this morning when I took the truck into town to go for a drive, the front end has never been so tight. This is one of the major complaints about the second gen Dodge Cummins trucks, is the front ends can get quite sloppy quite fast, but not so much on the first gen trucks. So I was very much looking forward to seeing how the truck would drive with the new Borgeson shaft, and it was so much better. Rhett has been driving his 1996 Ford Power Stroke for the last few days without any problems. I still think the glow plugs are not working as well as they could be, especially on these very cold mornings, but he's been able to get his truck started and has been able to drive it to school without any problems. It would be more than ideal to plug in all of the block heaters on all of the diesels around here, but we just can't do it. It pulls too many amps and it's too hard on the solar system. So we have to make sure that we've got good batteries and hopefully all of the right parts have been replaced so the trucks will actually start when they need to. As far as the first gen Dodge Cummins is concerned, she'll be good for another 25 miles at least. I think the transmission in this truck is starting to act up just a little bit as well. I may have to expedite the 6-speed manual swap so I can keep the truck on the road. Two-gauge aluminum wire is not the funnest to push through 1.25" conduit, but we've managed to get it this far, and now I just need to get the conduit strapped to the back of the shop and then stub out for the connection at the generator. Because it was a pre-cut roll, I probably have an extra 40 feet of that aluminum wire. So I know I have more than enough, but I need to get the wire in the conduit so I can figure out where to cut it off. The conduit will be here permanently, but the gas line that I'm going to run from the temporary propane tanks by the firewood to the generator is not going to be permanent. Once I move our 1,000-gallon tank up back behind the shop as well, I will tie the generator into that tank directly. I managed to find 200-pound propane tanks, which should be more than enough to get us through until we're ready to move the 1,000-gallon propane tank. One of my good friends here in town happened to have one, and as I was walking around the big box store today, I noticed they also had one left, and I will be able to rotate back and forth between them when one of the tanks runs out. So again, I'm running a 3/4 inch black iron pipe from the propane tanks down by the firewood, across the back of the shop, underneath the conduit. Then I will stub out right behind the generator. I will put the regulator right here at the propane tank and a shutoff valve at the generator. I needed a workbench, and this was the quickest way to get the job done. I have an old can of pipe dope that's sitting on my shelf in the shop, and that can is older than all of my kids, but I decided this was a good opportunity to buy a new can of the same stuff. When I was going through my apprenticeship, I spent many hours cutting and threading pipe. But nowadays I can go down to the big box store with a few measurements and get all the pieces pre-cut for the most part, pick up a few couplings, and put it all together. I used to have a full set of threading dies where I could cut and thread by hand, but I got rid of them because I have a phobia of keeping too many plumbing related tools around my shop. If I keep too many plumbing related tools around my place, I may very easily become a plumber again. I'm a little bit superstitious about this one. I'm still wearing the same socks from the last baseball game I played in as well. Trust me, it's not that I don't want to be a plumber, but I kind of like making videos. And ultimately I love working on our place and making it better where it needs to be made better. Every once in a while it's fun to break out the pipe wrenches and see if I still know how to ride the bike. And in this case, so far so good. When I was about 25 years old, Cedar and I and the 3 older kids were living in a small town in southern Utah, where my parents and my little brother and little sister happened to live as well. And that particular summer I managed to get a bunch of jobs running gas lines in a number of different cabins. So I spent a lot of time behind a couple of pipe wrenches and many hours cutting and threading pipe as I needed it. At the end of that summer, I could lift more weight than I'd ever been able to lift. It's amazing what a little bit of physical work can do for a guy. Cedar and I would live in that small town in southern Utah for only a few months before I was offered a management job back in Arizona that we decided we would take. But living in that little town was our first taste of the small town life, and we liked it. But that town may have been a touch too small for our needs. That town at that time had about 1,000 people living in it. And as much as we loved it, and as friendly as that little town was, we felt that maybe a few more people might be good for everybody. A few years later, we would end up living in Snowflake, Arizona, where we stayed for almost 8 years. And that town at that time had about 5,000 people in it. And that seemed to be the magic number for us. It never gets old when you're driving through town and you wave at somebody and they wave at you and you know exactly who they are. There's something very enjoyable about walking into the hardware store where everybody knows your name, because the town is still small enough to keep track of who lives there. But even our little community here is growing like everywhere else seems to be right now. On our next upcoming video, I'm going to put this gas line under test, which means I'm going to put it up to about 15 pounds of pressure. I'm going to inspect it for gas leaks using soap and water, and then I'm going to get it connected to the generator as well as the electrical. My buddy Cody's going to come up and help me get everything ready for the first initial startup. And hopefully we can get this thing online as soon as possible. Okay, I'm not doing anything else as far as the electrical and the gas until the experts tell me exactly where to stub everything out. On Monday, I'm going to have a friend of mine stop by. Cody kind of works hand in hand with Nick at Generation System, so I'm going to have Cody come up and just kind of look everything over and make sure we have everything connected properly before we do a startup, and then I'm going to talk with Nick and see what Nick wants to do. But I'd love to get this thing online real quick. We're not using the other generator anywhere near as much as we have been over the last couple of months, but I still want to get this thing online and make sure everything's good, and I do want to see how much faster it's going to charge. That's my main concern. When we would turn the other one on, it was the 8 kilowatt was not quite big enough, so it had to focus on charging the batteries, so we couldn't use like the dishwasher, which pulls a lot of power, and I could only have one of the shop's lights on at a time when the generator was running. So with this one, I should be able to do whatever I need to do and then some.